Actually, this is about a year and a half ago. His name is Ed Cohen. He comes here now. He's a little over 2,100 now. But I've played him about a dozen times, and I've beaten him twice. And I've had Ed Cohen.
His brother.
No. You may have played him, Brian, when he came to the club.
Well, he and his brother used to play together. I used to play them at the Santa Monica Club.
All right. This is a very quick game. This is a miniature. It's only 24 moves. I beat him in 24 moves.
Ed Cohen's, they're both very strong.
Yes. All right, I was playing the white pieces this time as opposed to black. And I am a knight c3 player for white. The reason I play knight c3, folks, is because if you go to the databases, you go to the MCOs, very, very, very few, if any, opening patterns, white's knight c3. I've made a science of it. Now, I do not know why over the last 100 years knight c3 has not been analyzed for an opening as knight f3, d4, e4, even c4, even f4, the birds. For some reason, you cannot find knight c3 in the MCOs as deeply analyzed as any of the other openings. And I think because over the last 120 or 30 years, the GMs just felt for some reason it was more inferior than any of the other moves. But why? It controls two center squares immediately. It develops a piece. Okay? And if you know where your pieces are going and your opponent does not, I think you have a marked advantage in the opening. And since nobody can memorize this pattern because they don't know it, they have to play principles on the very first move. They have to understand controlling the center, developing quickly, castling, and so they don't have the safety net of a memorization pattern that just says, oh, the first 6, 7 moves are safe because everybody's done it for the last 100 years. They don't know what the 6 or 7 moves are for black with this opening. They have to immediately start playing principles, okay? So, as an expert, most people will play d5, okay? And my answer usually when they play d5 is to play e4, hoping they'll push against the knight. The knight wheels to e2, then to g3, the bishop comes out, parks at a2, and I have a whole opening pattern. But he didn't follow that exactly the same. I was not sure what he was going to do if in fact I did play e4. He might have taken, which is okay for white, it doesn't really hurt anything, but I really do hope, and 90% of the people I play do push against the knight comes to e2, and then you have a closed up center, and I can develop very quickly, okay? But I wanted to see what he was going to do first. So, h3.
Could I just say,
yeah.
I was reading in I don't know which magazine, but Nakamura started to favor knight c3 as a wide opening because I think in conjunction with d4 because it's very easy to play.
Yes.
And for 5-minute purposes, it's very solid.
Well, if you start e4 and then knight c3, you get a Vienna. They call it the Vienna. Okay. This could transpose.
I'm just saying, I read that Nakamura started favoring d4 in conjunction with knight c3 to open as a 5-minute.
Oh, for a blitz?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you say that again? The Vienna is what for?
The Vienna would be e4. Let's say e5, and now knight c3. This is a Vienna opening, okay? So it could transpose. But the reason that I don't start e4 first, but I start knight c3 is because I usually do want d5, which is exactly what he played. But instead of me playing e4, I wanted to see what he would do against h3, okay?
Nakamura likes to start with this in 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm sure that he has his patterns, and remember, GMs know all the opening patterns. They know the Nimzovich, they know Schwenigan for the Sicilian, they know the French, they all know the opening patterns 15, maybe 20 moves deep, and for the Roy Lopez, some patterns go 45 moves deep for equality. What they do is they will stick in a position after 15 or 17 moves of a French variation, a win hour or whatever, and they will start to look for a novelty on move 18 or 19 or 20. And that's when they spring it on the world in a major tournament. If they find some continuation that nobody's done before. And that's what happens. Okay? So that's what happens. All right? Anyway, so my h3 to make sure I didn't quite know what he was going to do. And sure enough, he takes the center with e5. And now I play my e4, hoping he's going to push, because it's the same thing. And remember, you see this bishop now cannot come and harass and pin the knight when I go to f3, because I have h3 already. Okay. Now what's happening is white is giving back one of the tempos that he has from the beginning of the game, because he obviously has the first move. All right. But I'm really hoping that he's going to push, because he plays right into my hands. But being the expert that he is, he ignores that and develops a piece, which is exactly what he's supposed to do. So I really have no choice, because I can't give him the center that much. E takes d, knight takes, and if I take, his queen comes to the center. I have absolutely no pieces developed. He has a huge advantage with the queen controlling the center, and at least one piece developed. And I no longer have my knight to c3 to harass the queen. So I have to make a decision here. My whole idea, remember, is if they had pushed d4, the knight's going to wheel to e2 and then come to g3. So on my own, even though it violates a principle in the opening, which is moving the same piece twice, knight to e4, bishop to e7, he's getting ready to castle. He's actually following the great principles of chess. Knight f3, because this bishop cannot pin the knight to the queen, because I've already taken that extra tempo and given it back, and h3 is here. Plus, at the same time, I'm attacking his e5 pawn. So he develops and defends. Although he does block off the light squared bishop for one move, at least he's taking care of the attack on e5. Quick development, bishop c4, hitting the knight. And the queen's no longer guarding the knight, because the knight has blocked off the queen at least for one move. And I'm now ready to castle. So is it a threat and a developing move? He likes his knight sitting in the center, so c6 instead of castling, or even knight f3, or maybe b6. I think maybe this knight to b6, hitting this and defending this, might have been a better move. d3, getting my dark squared bishop ready for development. And he immediately castles. Now, I probably should castle immediately. And guess what, guys? I actually followed the principles of chess. I got my 4 moves back. His king was 4 moves safer than mine, and I immediately got those 4 moves of safety back. Now, you see this bishop here? It's sort of an indirect pin on his king. I mean, the pawn's here, the knight's here, there's a lot of play. He doesn't like this, and he plays like a master and immediately just gets off that pin. So that in 4 or 5 moves, he's going to be able to play f5 and not worry about it. And that's what they do. If they see a pin, masters or GMs, even if it's 2-3 moves into the future and they see it coming, they take care of it. They don't have to worry about it. It's no problem for them, okay? So he just moved his king off to the corner. I did not want anything coming in to harass me, but it's not only to keep the knight out, it's to park this bishop at a2 and keep this long diagonal here for my bishop. See the squares again? Remember that last game where bishop b7 controlled these light squares? This bishop at a2 is going to control the a2 g8 diagonal for a very long time. And sure enough, boom, he starts his attack because he got the king off the pin, okay? All right, knight g3, which is what I normally do when I start knight c3. This is the formation I want. Knight at f3, g3.
And why do you
pawn,
want that?
because when they castle kingside, I have 2 knights ready to spring into action. And because, look at, this bishop is aiming towards the king. This bishop is aiming towards the king. These 2 knights are 1 move away from the king. I have 4 of my pieces ready to spring, and I can probably even sacrifice one to tear open his fortress and still manage to somehow cause some problems. Okay? So I really do like this, and this is actually a formation in one of the Roy Lopez openings. It just takes, they go around about it a little bit differently. Bishop d6. He didn't move the knight here to get this light-squared bishop in the game yet. He's aiming towards my h2, and he may probably want to trade off this bishop for this knight, double the pawns, even if it means opening up the f-file, because his rook's already on it. I think he saw the potential danger with these two knights, so I think immediately he was going to trade off the bishop for one of those knights. Knight coming in. Now, by moving this knight here, it's not only threatening the fork, royal fork, even though the rook can take, but you see if the knight's not there, I'm going to win the exchange, all right? So I would have to figure out a way to get rid of this knight, and all of a sudden I could win this rook for this knight. I might even be able to sacrifice and take this pawn, king comes up, and now the real reason of knight to g5 was to release the queen up to h5 and threaten mate right here. That's the whole idea, is to release this queen, okay, on that diagonal. Knight on d7 to f6, guarding the pawn, so I can't take it anymore. At the same time, he opened up the light squares for the bishop to be developed. Well, let's get rid of his protector. This is a major protector. I'm willing to trade. Knight takes knight, and boom, queen up, threatening mate in one move. Okay? Time to trade. There's nothing wrong with trading if you improve your position, right? So, he just moves his queen over to put a second piece on this, so that if he takes, I certainly can't take back because the queen's also guarding, okay? So it's a cute little move. So let's get rid of the protector. Knight takes knight. And if he takes with the knight, it does open up the bishop here. Now, I still wouldn't be able to check him because rook takes, bishop takes. I'd have to give up bishop knight for one rook. And history has shown that this knight and this bishop, even if you get this pawn here at f7 for the rook, and in the opening sequence of the game, 3 and 3 is 6, 5 and 1 is 6, and the power points are about even at 6 and 6, but I don't look at it that way. And I've seen a lot of kids do this because they think they're trading even for power points. If a knight is sitting in the center, it's controlling how many squares? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If a bishop is sitting in the center, it's controlling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. How much is 14 and 8? 22. If a rook is sitting in the center, it controls 8 this way, 7 this way, 15, and the pawn controls 16, 17. What's more, 22 or 17? You get 5 more squares of control with a bishop and a knight over a rook and a pawn. That's why, to me, it's not even. Okay, it may sound like it's even in power points, but chess is about controlling property, okay, and real estate. And if you get 5 more squares of control with these two over these two, it just doesn't add up. The math isn't there.
Wait, what's a 5 pawn got to do with it?
Well, no, I'm saying that this pawn controls these 2 squares when it sits there at f7. It controls e6 and it controls g6.
But it's not sitting on it.
No, but if in fact I had just tried to trade, and a lot of kids will trade the f7 pawn for the bishop and the knight for the rook and the pawn. They will do this quite a bit. I even had a master do it against me once, okay? Because he felt that he could control the game with double rook as opposed to rook, bishop, knight, okay? And to me, it doesn't add up unless the position's there. And it's too early in the game to try it, okay? So he took with the rook instead of with the knight to keep the diagonal closed. I went over to give his queen something to think about. He came over to attack this, but remember, it's already protected here, so I wasn't too worried about it. At this point, this knight was very dangerous coming here, so I got rid of it because it was sitting in the center controlling a lot of squares.
F4 would have been first
Pawn takes. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
And it's,
Right now. Right now.
Just an,
Yeah, right
just an
now.
approach. Because,
Yeah.
you wanna-
But I wanted to get rid of the knight first, Brian, because it was covering f4. You see, I got rid of one of the protectors of f4 by taking the knight first. See, the knight was also on it. Now, f4. Okay? So he said, I don't like your knight in my face. So I said, okay, take my knight.
Yeah,
I'll take your bishop. And then I'll open up the rook on your queen after I take your bishop. So he had no choice but to take this. And he created his own pin. All right, now, here's the tactic.
Queen A-flat.
No,
No.
no, there's a tactic right now. Who can see the tactic, folks? Tactic, tactic. The game is tactics. Yes, rook
Queen
takes
A-flat
bishop.
win also.
Oh, now what happens if the queen
A-flat
takes?
also wins.
Royal fork with the knight at f7. He cannot take back, okay? And when I did it, you could see that he saw it. So he said, all right, you got the bishop, Queen f8. Now, queen h5, the pawn is pinned. He could take with the rook, but he'll lose a rook for the knight. But he had to because he was very worried, okay? And sure enough, bishop takes. And so as you can see right now, I think I'm up a full rook, right?
Yes. Resignable to anybody.
Yes, but he felt that since he had me by 400 points, he could play on. Rook on a to e1. Doubling up on an open file with double rooks. Somebody told me that that's a good thing. King to h7 to get off the back rank. Rook attacks the bishop. And the queen is about to take this pawn and say check because the pawn is pinned. It can't take back. So he had to get off this. So he came back here. And bishop takes h6 anyway. Because no matter what he does, if he takes here, queen here, check, and mate next. I mean, he could block once, but it's going to be mate anyway. So at this point, he resigned. The tactic was rook takes bishop because he missed the royal fork with the knight at f7. That was the beautiful tactic. And you have to be aware that that might exist. And the only way it could exist is by getting the pieces close enough in his face, close to his king, to create those scenarios. Again, every single one of my pieces has been played. He never got to play this one. So basically for the whole game I was playing 7 against 6, so I could even afford to give up a piece and I'd still be playing even, okay? Tactics. The more you study them and the more you study the games that have them, the more you start to look for them. Yeah, Brian?
I don't know if this was a plan that you had, but if you have time, I'd like to show a King's Gambit I played on Friday.
All right, maybe we'll take the break, guys, and we'll come back at 8:30. We have a 10-minute break, and Mick might be back by 8:30, okay? All right, thanks.
I'm just throwing it out because I
Okay.
know you're covering for Michigan. I thought maybe if you'd like, I could go.